In this lecture, we're going to be learning how to add a Facebook login to our apps. And Facebook is great because people are very familiar with it. They know that sign-in process. They kind of rely on that rather than having a million different usernames and passwords. And also, it's a great way to get quick information from users, like their email, maybe their gender, where they're from, interests that they have, those kind of things, without having to specifically ask them. If they've already got it on Facebook, it's great to just sort of pull that information. So go ahead and go to developers.facebook.com. This is where we're going to start to get the different resources that we need to add Facebook login to our app. So once you've gotten to this page, go ahead to My Apps. You're going to have to log in with your Facebook account and click on this Add New App. So go ahead and select that. Now, as for the name, you want to put something that describes what your app is going to be about. And I've tried doing something like Facebook Test App or something, but they don't like you using the name Facebook in there. So I'm just going to call this I Like Chicken by Nick or something like that, just because I need something sort of silly here just to pass this requirement. Okay, so go ahead and click on Create App. Once you've done that, it's going to try and see if you're a robot or not. So let's see if I can pass this test. Oh man, I'm on the line here. Did I get it correct? I swear I only get those right like half the time. And it looks like, yes, I did get it correct. Okay, so once we've done this, it's going to ask you how you're going to use this new Facebook app that you've created. And we want to add a Facebook login. So I'm going to go ahead and click Set Up on Facebook Login. It's going to ask me which platform I want to use. And I want to use iOS. So step one, it's telling us, all right, we've got to download the iOS SDK. So we'll get that cracking there. And while that's going, we should probably make a new Xcode project. So I'm going to open up Xcode, and we are going to make a new project. And we can name this whatever we'd like. So I'm going to call it Facebook Login Test. All right. Now that we've got that, let's go ahead and hit Next. And I'm going to create this on the desktop. Good, good, good. That all looks great. So let's go ahead and hit Next on that because we've got it downloaded. So then it's telling us we've got to add all these different frameworks to our Xcode project. So let's go ahead and open up this folder that it just downloaded here. And there's a ton of different things inside of here. But basically it's saying you've got to add these to a folder called Frameworks. So I'm going to make a new folder here. I'm going to call it Frameworks, just like that. And it's going to tell you, okay, you've got to get the FB SDK login kit, FB SDK login kit, and drag that into our frameworks. And then the next thing that we're going to do is add this into our project. So I'm going to open up Xcode beta, and then using the Finder, I'm going to drag this frameworks folder right in there. And I'm going to say finish. So we should have frameworks with that nice FB SDK login framework there. Next thing is we need to go to our build settings, and we need to add this document / Facebook SDK to the project's framework search. So this is going to be wherever all of the Facebook SDKs are going to be. So in this case, ours is actually going to be under downloads if we have that. So, and you'll see mine's actually named -4. So maybe I should just go ahead and move that to my document. So I'm going to take in my downloads here, I'm going to take the Facebook SDK, I'm going to put it in documents. All right, and then I'm going to get rid of that -4 at the end there. Facebook SDKs -iOS. Okay, so now that we've got that, let's go ahead and copy this. And I said in the build settings, we're going to have to do this for framework search path. So I'm going to open up my project here, and I'm going to go to build settings and search for framework search paths. And there we go. I can now double click and add that. There we go. So once we've got all that information in there, we're going to hit next. It's going to ask for our bundle ID. So let's go ahead and provide that. This is under general. So I can go ahead and copy, paste that in, bada boom, hit save there. Okay, that looks good. Now I can continue. We've got to enable single sign-on. So we're going to go back to our project, and under capabilities, we want to scroll down until we see the single sign-on here. Oh, excuse me, I'm not doing the step here. We need to do this in this part of the app. Okay, so we're going to hit save here, and we'll hit save. Looks like that's good. We'll hit next. We are going to have to come back, and on here or is it keychain sharing? We're going to have to switch this to the on position, in which case you're going to have to provide your user account. So go ahead and select that there, or your team that you're using. But once you've done that, you've got to go work on our info.plist, and we've got to add a couple of pieces of information here. So, and it tells us how we can sort of modify this plist in a cool way. So if we go and right click it, this info.plist, you right click, we can say open as source code, and you can see we got something a little bit different here. And we're going to copy and paste the following into the dictionary part. So I'm going to copy this, come back to our code, and we're going to just paste it right in there. Looks good. All right. And if you're going to use any of the Facebook dialogues, login, share, app invites that can perform an app switch to Facebook apps, use this in your application's plist also. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this as well and paste that right inside. Okay, so we've added those things. We'll go ahead and hit next. The next thing is we need to connect our app delegate. So we're going to move over to our app delegate here. And inside of here, it's telling us that when we're doing this, we're going to have to import the Facebook core kit. So I'm going to come up to the top and say import. And we want Facebook. Oh, what was the name of this? FB SDK core kit. Okay, so let's go ahead and get that FB SDK core kit. And I'm not getting the autocomplete on that, which gives me a little bit of a worry. And I'm getting a red glow on that. Let's see what the issue is. So it took a little bit of work, but I got things happening again. So I had to go into my documents and change this to just Facebook SDK with no S or -iOS, so just strictly that. Then I took that frameworks folder that we had, I dragged it out and put it in here. I guess we weren't supposed to handle it that way. We just want the frameworks folder here. And then I dragged and dropped that Facebook login kit one more time into this frameworks folder. So once I did that, now when I want to try and go get this FB SDK core kit, it actually shows up. So if I do import FB SDK core kit, I can get that to show up. Okay, so now that we have that, it's telling us that we are going to have to add this code where we work with this. Now, Facebook has all this in Objective-C, which is a little bit frustrating, but we can do the translation here. So we need the FB Sdk Application Delegate. So we're going to do our, in fact, maybe what I'm going to try and do is do like a little split screen here so that I can just be typing both at the same time. So if I do this, I'm going to have to really make some space here in Xcode. So I'm going to use FB SDK, and then I'm looking for application. Let's see, if I bet if I just start typing, that's going to be better. Application delegate, there we go. Dot shared instance. Then we need to get dot application, and we want to do the one where we can launch it with options. So we're going to go ahead and do this one here. So you can see this is where we can provide some launching options. But not the one with the URL and all that stuff. So let's try that one more again. So we'll go ahead and try this one here. This is not what we're looking for. Let's try that one more time. Applications, we're looking for the one where we have the did finish launching. Then we're going to do dot application, and we want to do the one with the did finish launching with options. So if we go ahead and use that, we can just pass this application object that we have from above, and then for the launching options, we can just provide the launch options again, just like that. Okay, so that's going to satisfy that requirement. Then we want to go down to this application open URL, and you'll notice that this isn't one of the default ones that's here. So let's go ahead and add that. So we're going to start typing application. So here's the function we're looking for, the one where you can open a URL. Once we have this code here, we want to go ahead and use this Facebook method here. So we're going to say FB SDK Application Delegate dot shared instance. We're getting used to that. Then we're going to do dot application, and we want to do the option where we can open up a particular URL with launch with open URL option key. So if we do this, we want to pass in the app, which is short for the application up right there. We want to provide the URL, and we also want to provide the options. So we'll go ahead and just put all that through. Okay, so that will finish this step. We can go ahead and hit next on that. Next thing that we're going to do is we're going to have to add this button to our app. So we're going to have to put it inside of some view controller. So, oh, and we need to, I guess we missed some code here on this. We needed to make a Boolean. So I thought we were done, but we actually weren't. So I'm going to say let handled be equal to this set of code right here. And once we've got that, we're going to go ahead and return handled. Okay, so if we do a build, yeah, it's a lot happier with that. We are still having some issues, but we're going to dive into those in a second. Let's keep adding some code here for the time being. All right, so we'll move on to the next portion where we actually add a login button to our app. It's kind of getting hard to have both of these at a split screen, so I'm going to go back to full screen on each of these. So let's bring back the left and the right here. So I'm going to go back to, in our code, our view controller, and they're telling us that we are going to need the core kit and login kit for this. So I'm going to say up here, import Facebook SDK core kit, and also import FB SDK login kit. So we've got those two pieces of information. Next thing that we need to do is we need to make a login button. So that's an FB SDK login button. So down here we're going to say FB SDK login button, and we're going to make a brand new button. We'll just call this, say, let login button be equal to this. Okay. Now that we've got that in place, we've got to go ahead and set it on the center of the screen. So we're going to say login button dot center is equal to view dot frame dot center. Or excuse me, what did we have here? Yeah, view dot center. Oh, I shouldn't have done frame. View dot center. It was simpler than I was thinking. Okay, once you got those two pieces of information, we just have to add it as a subview. So we're going to say add subview. Excuse me, view dot add subview, and then we're going to add this login button that we created. Okay, so we'll go ahead and hit next on this. Then it says check the current login status. So this is going to check and see if there's somebody logged in, and you can only have one person logged in at a time. So this is something that you should probably be checking periodically, but you just want to, make sure that this is, if someone's automatically logged in, that you could move them in. Now for our app, we only have one page here. We're not doing anything crazy difficult, so we don't even need to worry about this. So we're just going to say next. And the next one is we want to ask for permission so that it can go ahead and get the person's data and move over into a different app. So in order to do this, we are going to go ahead and create a new property here, which is going to be the button. So we're going to go say var login button, just like this. And we are going to set it be equal to a FB SDK login button. So I'm going to say this should be of type FB SDK login button, and we're going to make that an optional. In fact, let's just go ahead and create a new one there. That way we don't have to worry about optionals. So once we've gotten to this step, we're actually ready to go ahead and use what we've got here. So we can just go ahead and say next to skip this for now. But let's go ahead and test this out on our app. So once we have all this information here, we've created this button right, we're ready to rock and roll. Let's go ahead and hit run and see what this looks like. Okay. So here comes the app, it opens it up, and if you had an issue running here, that's because you're going to have to add this core kit framework. So if you need to, just go to that documents frame Facebook SDKs and drag and drop that core kit here into the frameworks. Okay, but once you've got that, you should see this awesome Facebook login button. If you go ahead and tap on this, it's going to take you to a page where you can input your credentials, right? So if you go ahead and put this in and then hit login, it'll take you there. So let me go ahead and put in my info now. Okay, so it's asking me, do you want to continue and log into this app? So I'm going to say yes, continue, and boom. If you see that log out sign, that means that everything was successful and you were able to do this. So that's a great piece of news. But this is all right, but we don't have any information. Like, we didn't glean any information here. Well, it would be nice if we could get like the user's email or something like that. So that's what we're going to talk about now. All right, so if we want to go get the user's email or something like that, we got to specifically ask for those pieces of information. And if we go back to the screen here, remember I said we could skip past this? Well, I just wanted to make sure that everything was working. And now when we come back here, under this read positions, this is where we are asking for example, their public profile, the email, stuff like that. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to go to our code, and as we're setting this up, we're going to say login button dot read permissions, and you can see on read permissions it's looking for an array of any objects, but it's really looking for an array of strings. So here the first thing that we're going to be looking for is the public underscore profile. So I'm going to copy that exactly, paste that in there, and the next thing we're looking for is the email. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in email, just double check that that's what it is. Yes, we want the email. So again, we got these @ signs because this is Objective-C code, and we're just kind of switching it to Swift. So once we have those two pieces of information, in order to see what Facebook has done and if it can give us this information, we have to write a new function. So I'm going to delete what we have here. And the next thing that we need to do is we need to add a delegate for this login button. So if we say login button dot delegate, so it's looking for FB SDK login button delegate, we'll set that equal to self. Okay, so then we have to add this protocol FB SDK login button, and we want delegate. There we go. So let's do a build and make sure that error leaves, and it does, but then it gives us a new one because it's saying, hey, you know, there's some functions that you got to provide here. So one of them is if we just start typing login button, and we want to do this one that kind of gives us back some information about when somebody has logged in. So we're going to have all sorts of code inside of there, but you notice if we do a build, it's still not happy, and that's because we have to provide some code for when somebody logs out. So if we do login one more time, and you can see this login button did log out. Inside of here, maybe we could just simply print something like logged out or something like that. Okay, so let's do a build. That should get rid of our error there. And it does, but we need to work through here in order to get some information back from Facebook. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to see if there's any errors inside of here. So we're just going to say, and it gives us this nice error object. So we're going to say if error, all right, is not equal to nil, then what we're going to do is go ahead and print that. So we're going to print the error. Excellent. After we've gone and checked for an error, we need to make sure that this hasn't, the user hasn't canceled the login. So we're going to put an else on this saying, all right, if there's no error, we're going to say else if result dot is canceled. And this will tell us whether or not they've canceled this. And if they have, we're just going to print out here, user has canceled login. Great. Then we're going to have our last else, which is sort of saying, okay, there was no errors, they didn't cancel all of this, it's ready to rock and roll. And we want to see and make sure that they gave us permission for their email. So we're going to say if result dot granted permissions. Okay, this gives us back a set of all of those, and we're going to say dot contains, because what we're trying to see is if it has what we're looking for. And we're going to say, do you contain an email inside of here? So we're going to do our nice little curly brackets here to check and see if that's the case. Then the next thing that we're going to do is a graph request to see if we can get some information. So we're going to say if let graph request, which is just a new object that we're making. We're saying this is going to be equal to an FB SDK graph request. And if we do our little parenthesis here, we can give one where we give a graph path and then also some parameters, and there's even one here where we can, well, no, that's the one we want. Okay, sorry, got lost here for a second. So for the graph path, what we're looking for is just me, because we're not trying to move up between any of this user's friends or anything, so we're just going to say me, meaning it's that user. And then as far as parameters go here, we just want to get their email and their name. So we're going to provide an array here where we're going to say fields as a key. And then for a value, we're going to provide another string where we say email, comma, name. Now, if you want to know all the details about how you can get into this and see how to work with the Facebook graph, there's tons of great tutorials. Facebook has pretty good documentation. It's not the greatest in the world, but it is pretty good. And there's lots of things that you can do there. So once we have this graph request, we need to start it. So we're going to say graph request dot start. And this gives us a cool little completion handler. So it gives us a connection, which I'm just going to call connection. Next, it's going to give us the result. And then finally, it has an error in case something went wrong. So first thing is we want to check and see that if there's an error. So we're just going to say if error is not equal to nil, then we know that there's an error. So in that case, we want to go ahead and print the error. Okay. But we're going to say else, if that's not the case, we assume that this all worked out. We're going to go grab the user details out of result. So we're going to unwrap that. We're going to say if let user deets be equal to result. That should unwrap that, and then we can go ahead and print that information that's inside the user deets. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this and see what we get. And it looks like it's not liking how we're printing out our error here. So let's go ahead and just do the exclamation point saying we know for sure that that's there. And let's run this. Okay, so build succeeded. Here's the big moment of truth. So I'm going to log out because we're doing all of this once somebody logs in and had our info from last time. So I'm going to continue with Facebook. And looks like I'm going to have to input this again. All right, I've gone ahead and put in that information. This is the exciting portion. I'm going to say continue as Rick. And look at this. What do we have down below? We have the ID and we have the name, but we don't have any email. And so the question is, well, you know, what's going on here? How the heck are we supposed to find the email? So I was diving into the code here, and basically the issue was I did not spell fields correctly. I called it faileds. So now that I've spelt it correctly, let's go ahead and see if we can get the email to show up. All right, so build succeeded. I'm going to log out so that I can log in one more time. Okay, put in my information again. Okay, so let's try logging in one more time. And if you look at this, there's that nice email that we were looking for. So awesome stuff. Like I said, there's tons more things that you can do with the Facebook login, tons of ways that you can use that SDK, but that's for you to go find out. We have made great progress on this section. We've got 2 more things to pick up, and then we are done.